Today's podcast is sponsored by the Association of Mature American Citizens Like Me, the only conservative alternative to AARP. Go to amac.us/Carter if you're feeling a bit immature. Thank you. Anyway, so I'm going to get started because we've got a lot going on this week. So much so that I don't even know where to start. But I'm going to start with President Trump. That seems like the appropriate place. And his interview with Maria Bartiromo on Fox News on Sunday. I thought it was a fascinating interview. It's his first interview that he has done, like a full-on interview since the election. And I think it's really important what he had to say about the Department of Justice, particularly John Durham and William Barr. I want you to hear this.
Where is the DOJ and the FBI in all of this, Mr. President? You have laid out some serious charges here. Shouldn't this be something that the FBI is investigating? Are they?
Missing in action.
Is the DOJ investigating?
Missing in action. Can't tell you where they are. I ask, are they looking at it? Everyone says yes, they're looking at it. Look, where are they with Comey, McCabe, and all these other people? You know, I said I'll stay out of it. I wish I didn't make that statement. There's no reason really why I have to. But where are they with Comey, with McCabe, with Brennan, with all these people? They lied to Congress. They lied. They leaked. They spied in our campaign. I see Carter Page is bringing a lawsuit. That's good news. Where are they with all of this stuff? And, you know, what happened to Durham? Where's Durham?
Where's Durham? What happened to all this stuff? I've been asking that question now for a year. I have been so extraordinarily frustrated. And every time the Department of Justice would come out, a small interview here and there with Attorney General William Barr or Carrie Cupic, the department spokeswoman, would come on Fox and talk about how they're making progress. I would say, well, put your money where your mouth is. Let's see what progress. Where are the indictments? I mean, what we saw in the Obama administration, by the way, now the vice president, former Vice President Joe Biden, is the president-elect of the United States of America by the media. I know it's not over until it's over, but the media is moving forward, and that's the majority of media, and people in the world are congratulating him. And everybody's just kind of steamrolling what happened in the United States of America, which is the trampling of the United States Constitution, which is everything we are about, our Bill of Rights, who we are as citizens, the reason why our men and women join our armed forces to fight and protect this nation. It isn't just because it's a place, folks. It's because of what we stand for. It's an ideal, right? But we had an Obama administration, members of the Obama administration, which, by the way, are going to be back in office in the bureaucracy being appointed. I mean, look, even Sally Yates, who was the former acting attorney general, behind the entire mess at the DOJ with Obama regarding President Trump and the prosecution of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Thank God that American hero and patriot was pardoned by President Trump because he was targeted. She's looking at coming back. And what about all these strange rumors that Hillary Clinton is looking at becoming the defense secretary? I mean, that's just insanity. But they weaponized our most precious agencies, the ones that we entrust, by the way, to carry weapons in our country, right? The FBI, our U.S. intelligence agencies that are supposed to work to basically protect us, the American citizen, from foreign enemies and domestic enemies. They used it against us. And I want to tell you how they did. Just think about it. President Trump was a duly elected president of these United States. We have never seen a president targeted the way President Trump was targeted by the American bureaucracy, by the government, right? This machine, this massive machine that we have no control over, folks, anymore. It appears like we don't. This election 2020, more than 73, let me make this clear again, so that the Democrats understand, if there's any Democrats out there listening or liberals, more than 73 million Americans voted for President Trump. That is more than anyone has ever been voted. I mean, in the Republican Party ever. President Trump broke records, and they are steamrolling him. They are treating him like he doesn't even exist, like he's some kind of lame duck person right now in the White House, like he never, ever should have been there. They're telling us, those people that support President Trump, 73 million plus Americans. By the way, I think it's closer to 100 million if you think about the people that didn't vote and, other issues that came up in the election where, votes got thrown out and who knows. They're telling us, oh, just get over it. Just come on. Can't we all get along? Can't we all kumbaya? Let's all kumbaya together now. Now that, the establishment got their establishment guy back in so that he can continue doing establishment things like take American jobs and ship them overseas, like get into our business in our homes, right? Telling us how many people we can have over for Thanksgiving because we just can't make those decisions for ourselves. We're too stupid. Right? That's what they're telling us. You're too dumb. We need to control every part of your life. Oh, they can also push our closest allies like Israel, just push them away. Like, what? What about the poor Palestinians? I mean, look, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter the progress that President Trump and his administration made in Israel. The Abraham Accords, I'm not even going to say Israel. I'm going to say with the entire Middle East and the Persian Gulf. Extraordinary progress. I'm going to have Buck Sexton on in a little while. Buck is a great friend of mine. I know you listen to the Buck Sexton Show, his podcast, because he is phenomenal. Former CIA, worked with CIA, was in Afghanistan. I was there too. Buck and I saw it for ourselves with our own eyes, what this mission creep into other countries was under George Bush administration, under the Obama administration. I was writing those stories all the time. Mission creep. We're going to war. And we would go to war. And then I would have to go there and cover the war. And I would have to see young men and women wounded, injured in our hospitals in Bagram Airfield, missing legs, missing half their brains, missing their eyes like my husband, giving their lives completely for this country. And I would, also see what happened when young, innocent children that lived in Afghanistan were the victims of war, right? And of the Taliban and of Al-Qaeda and of the crossfire, and see them in the hospitals suffering with their families. President Trump was the first president in so long that has not led us into war. That wasn't like gung-ho about the revolving door of the Pentagon, right? That wasn't like, oh, we got to go to war. I mean, why not? We got to go to war. We got to make some, more weapons? I don't know. We got to do some more stuff. I believe in protecting our country. I believe in protecting our national security. That's why my husband went to war. That's why I covered the war. But when you start to ask questions like, why are our troops building schools in Afghanistan? And then they're getting blown up the next day. And, why are we building roads that IEDs get put under? By the way, IEDs by Iran. We're going to talk about Iran in a second because it's very important that we talk about Iran. But I watched the roads we built, hundreds of millions. By the way, let's talk about it realistically. Hundreds of billions of American taxpayer dollars go to waste, flushed down a toilet. That's what we dealt with. And lives lost and wasted in the longest war. And we still haven't found resolution to it. There should have been resolution. But we're still there. What happened in Syria? What happened in Iraq? But we have an Obama administration that was filled with corruption. People that stepped all over that Constitution that our young men and women fought for to protect this country, that we fight for every single day, and no one has paid the price. Where are you, William Barr? Where are you, John Durham? President Trump is right. Where are you? You should have been there for the American people. You had a moment where you could have had a legacy that would have lived forever in the history of America, and you chose not to do anything. Because even if you do something now, what does that mean? What does it mean to us? The election's already passed. You can't play the fence on this, Attorney General Barr or Durham. You can't play the fence on this. It was your duty to uphold justice, and you did not. You failed the American people. But you know what doesn't fail the American people in winter is heat holders. And I'm going to just jump right into this ad because I'm really frustrated, and I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to move away from that for just 1 minute to tell you about something that I think is really remarkable. It's heat holders, and they've got gloves, socks, blankets. I mean, everything you can think of for Christmas to give to your family. And I bought my kids some heat holders. I know they're listening to me right now, but I got socks, I got hats, I got throw blankets, and it's made out of this really incredible material, guys. It's a material that does not, by the way, it does not get cool like that. It keeps you nice and warm. It's thick, and it works with your body temperature. Heat holders makes the warmest thermal socks around. They keep your feet warmer than ever before, and they make them for little kids too. Even under the coldest conditions, your feet will stay warm. They use a 3-stage process with a cashmere-like advanced insulating yarn. It's super soft to the touch, and it's brushed on the inside, trapping warm air closer to your skin, keeping your feet warmer, comfortable, and dry. Heat Holder swears they make the softest, most comfortable socks guaranteed. It's available in all sizes, so go to heatholders.com and enter the code Carter, that's CARTER, at checkout to save, get this, 15% off your order. Receive free shipping with any purchase of $25 or more. So, folks, there's no need for icy cold feet this winter. Just go to heatholders.com and use the code Carter. Remember, that's CARTER, and you will get 15% off on these amazing gifts. You will not regret it. Trust me, you're going to love them when they show up at your door. That's heatholders.com, promo code Carter. Okay, I will not be sending a gift to former CIA Director John Brennan this year. Is that a surprise to all of you? I don't know. I will not be sending a gift to this man. He is incredibly infuriating. As you all know, I interviewed him. I've talked about this before in December of 2016. God, had I only known what I know now then, the questions would have been so far different. But right now, I mean, I literally feel when I see his tweets and when I hear him speak, like I am in the X-Files. It's so creepy, so weird, and all of it is very, very scary. In fact, I think I'm going to open an X-Files just to deal with John Brennan, and I want to tell you why. Because he came out, here's our former CIA director. Not only does he go after the president of the United States, it's not even his place. He does this all the time, right? He undermines the president in front of the world when he does this. He calls him a clear and present danger. He's come out and spoken terribly about the president over and over again for the last 4 years. We've had to hear this. It's infuriating. But now he's like upset about the killing of the Iranian top nuclear scientist. He's upset about it. He's apologizing to Iran. Is he violating a Logan Act in here somewhere? I mean, he and John Kerry and all of these people that are Biden, that are supporting President-elect Biden because they're so desperate to get back into government and have some relevancy. I don't even know what kind of relevancy, the relevancy of like destroying our nation, maybe that will be their legacy. We'll have to, 100 years from now, people will be like, oh, that generation voted for Biden and put all these criminals back in office. But have you even seen his tweets lately? He's like, blasting, Israel, the United States, saying, I'm so sorry, Iran. This was a criminal act. It was highly reckless. It risks lethal, he says, retaliation, a new round of regional conflict. It was you, former CIA Director John Brennan, that was involved in all of the regional conflict. I've only seen really peace come out of President Trump's administration the last 4 years. The Abraham Accords that none of you ever thought would even be possible. Actually, President Trump and Jared Kushner made possible. That's what I've seen. I've seen peace, calmness, I haven't seen like the crazy Arab Spring or us throwing our allies under the bus the way you did. But I love how you utilize this. Listen, you guys, how Brennan says this. It risks lethal retaliation. Like he's giving the Iranians some ideas, right? A new round of regional conflict. Iranian leaders would be wise to wait for the return of responsible American leadership on the global stage. Responsible American leadership. I loved listening to him, just cringing, but I loved to make fun of him when he'd get in front of Congress and lie to them, because he was always lying in front of Congress, by the way, but he was never charged with it like Roger Stone was. No, or he was never called out on it ever by the left. But remember when he would say wittingly or unwittingly with kind of like a weird British accent? What a weirdo. Like, I can't even believe that people buy this malarkey. I'm going to say malarkey because I don't want it. And that's like such a Biden word, right? Didn't he have the malarkey tour bus or something? I'm going to say malarkey because if I use the other word, like BS, like the full word, I'm going to probably get dinged on YouTube or something for not being kid friendly. Although I don't even know why a kid would even want to listen to my podcast. They might. Kids might be interested, little kids. I don't know. They might think it's fun. But look, let's go back to Brennan. Brennan's like the scary thing though, right? Like a little kid. Like if we're going to have like I used to tell my daughter, just to take a little break from all this craziness. Annalise, when she was really little, I would tell her a story about a witch called Skillery. It was so funny. So Skillery Clinton, not Hillary Clinton, but Skillery Clinton. And she would always be like, Mommy, Skillery Clinton's so scary, when she was little. And it would just give me a good laugh. I will explain that. I know that seems like, am I abusing my child for that? No, I'm warning her about Hillary Clinton, Skillery Clinton, Scary Clinton, and Brennan. They're like characters out of some kind of Itzhak's fable, right? Like some kind of horror film or something, or horror novel. And this is why I'm telling you, it scares me. Look, what I'm dealing with when I travel overseas and we're, on the ground in Afghanistan and, the soldiers are fighting. They're not just dealing with the Taliban, right? We're not just dealing with the Taliban. There's a lot of other enemy actors out there. And this is on a very serious note. Iran was the biggest threat. Iran was the biggest threat to our soldiers, both in Afghanistan and in Iraq and all over the Middle East. We've seen what the Iranian regime has done globally. They are the largest state sponsor of terror in the world. Who is John Brennan to apologize to the Iranians? Who are these people in our government that give the olive branch to our greatest enemy, Iran, and its cult-like Ayatollah regime? And the people of Iran are suffering. The people of Iran are suffering. The young people who want to stand up to this cult-like regime. This government, this Iranian government, has hung people for being gay off buildings. There is nothing liberal or democratic about Iran. And by the way, they have killed and assisted in the killing of thousands of U.S. soldiers. I absolutely believe that. We know they've said hundreds and, in testimony, I believe it's thousands, because Iran's IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, trained a lot of the Talibs and different Al-Qaeda leaders as well. Look, a lot of people say, oh, no way. And I'm going to give you a little lesson here. There's no way that Iran and Al-Qaeda would work ever together, because one is Sunni and one is Shia. The Iranians are Shia. The Al-Qaeda is Sunni Muslim. They have two different beliefs. They're enemies. But the enemy of my friend, the enemy of the enemy is my friend, right? And that's what the Iranians see. And the Iranians were training to target U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan. This is a fact. Just look at some. Finally, when the United States admitted to it, Admiral Mullen admitted to it. General Petraeus back then admitted to it. I was on the ground in Afghanistan. I'd hear it all the time. It's a fact. It's a fact. So I'm really disgusted with John Brennan. And I cannot believe that the former head of the United States CIA would actually be apologizing publicly for a regime that potentially and has openly stated it wants to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, that it wants to wipe the West off the face of the earth. This is how the Iranian regime thinks, that is abusive towards its people, that has no problem gunning its own people down in the middle of the streets. That has done the most atrocious acts against the Jewish people through Hamas, through Hezbollah, the Jewish Community Center in Argentina a long time ago. I mean, this is a regime that is filled with atrocities, folks. Just take a little moment to read about it. And don't be fooled, with all of these pleasantries that Biden and, all of the same old hacks from the Obama administration are going to try to push on you. They're going to want you to concede. They don't want you to fight them. They want you to let them do whatever they want. And by the way, there's Republicans that are exactly the same. They're all in it together. Or as Congressman Matt Gaetz would say, they were all in bed together. That was kind of like, that's an inside joke. But he's always throwing those kind of weird jokes out there on Steve Hilton's show with me, try to get everybody to crack up. And it works. It usually works. But these people are all working together. This is why you saw Mitt Romney, come out, and others, Republicans, remember even John McCain and others. I mean, they're very much establishment oriented. Look at the Bushes and how close they are, right? How close they are to Obama. There's a lot of concern here about how our future is going to play out. What is it going to be like? What will foreign policy be like? What would America's future be like under a Biden administration if that happens? I'm going to be asking Buck Sexton all of these questions. I'm going to ask him about not only what he thinks the president's chances are of actually turning this election around. Look, miracles happen. Things happen. It's not over until it's over, right? We are all in this together, and it's not just about COVID. The most important thing in our country right now is our Constitution, and it has literally been trampled on for the last 4 years, and more so this last year with COVID. I'm going to be talking about this a lot with Buck Sexton. He's a great friend, served with the CIA. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about something that makes me very, very happy. And that's Arm & Hammer's Purrectly Impurrfect cat campaign. It's so exciting because it's about adopting a cat. And you guys know I talk about my cat Barry quite often, my beautiful big Barry, who we rescued from a shelter. And Arm & Hammer Cat Litter has launched this Purrectly Impurrfect campaign to help lovable but overlooked shelter cats find a caring forever home. Everyone knows the benefits of adopting a cat, and these cats in particular are in need of our love, attention, and support. So from today through November 30th, so that's it. It's today. You got to do this today. Shelters and cat lovers can nominate a perfectly imperfect feline friend on FelineGenerousStories.com. That's FelineGenerousStories.com. It's a fun way to help cats find caring pet parents. Look at all the P's I'm using in this. I'm so excited. And 3 shelters will actually win $10,000 each. Plus, Arm & Hammer is awarding, listen to this, $100 worth of litter to the first 100 eligible entrants. That's pretty awesome. Visit FelineGenerousStories.com for official rules and to learn more. That's FelineGenerousStories.com for official rules and to learn more. Thank you, Arm & Hammer. And without any further delay, I am bringing on Buck Sexton with the Buck Sexton Show. His podcast is great. Everyone can hear him on the radio all across America. He's a great friend and a true patriot. Thank you so much for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. You and I have been friends for a very long time. I dragged you out of bed this morning. I know you have so much going on today. You're going to be like on the radio all day, and I only got 8 minutes with you. So I want to start off with the very most important question right now to me, which is the assassination of the Iranian nuclear scientist. Top story. We've seen John Brennan come out and talk about this being unethical, wrong, apologizing to Iran, for Israel, for the United States, although nobody's actually completely claimed this. I want to get your thoughts on it. And I want to get your thoughts on a future with a Biden administration, because it's going to be just a complete 180. It's going to be the exact opposite of a President Trump administration, America First agenda. It's going to be like, in my opinion, America Last. Let's start with that.
So the Obama administration, I suppose, and Brennan, who was a important part of it, they could have just ordered a drone strike, perhaps, and then it would have been very humanitarian and completely on the up and up, right?
That's what they did all the time.
Yeah, that's what
Brennan.
Their favorite tool was to just drone and have the media act like nothing was going on, even though Obama would talk about it openly. And then from the inside of government, they were still pretending like this was all super secret, even though it was on the front pages of the New York Times, which is embarrassing. The intelligence community is able to do less of that now because information is so free flowing and out there and all over the place. But as for the difference between an Obama administration and well, it'll be kind of like the Obama administration, a Biden administration is what you see with Trump. The fact that he hasn't gotten more credit for not starting a war and when I say starting a war, involving us more deeply in a military conflict and then getting us stuck somewhere. This should be something that he's heralded for. I mean, this is something that's a major achievement of a presidential administration in this era. And I think that under the Biden team and the people that you see coming together, yeah, sure. Right now, I couldn't tell you where exactly they would want to do a humanitarian-based military intervention, but I can tell you that they're going to want to do everything they can to bend over backwards to make the Iranians happy, as we've already seen.
Right.
And that should be a concern for folks, because the Iranian government, I should say, does not have decent intentions toward its neighbors, toward Israel, toward the rest of the Middle East.
Iran is the biggest state sponsor of terror in the world. And if anything, calling the United States or Israel or anybody else a terrorist and committing terrorist actions, the way we have seen people on the left, former Obama officials, actually speak about the United States in the recent week is completely I mean, it blows my mind, because for so long we have asked our country, and I know Israel has been very, very vocal about this, to focus on Iran, to put more pressure on Iran, to put more sanctions on Iran. And under the Obama administration, it was a complete Iran deal, hold out the olive branch. Now we're seeing something. I mean, I don't know how the world's going to handle this. It feels like we started to make moves in the right direction when it came to Iran. Now we've hit the brakes and the world is being jolted. So what do you think is the next step? I mean, do you see this escalating in the Middle East? I know Iran's threatening right now to retaliate. What do you think is going to happen from here on out? And why do you think this happened? Do you think it happened because Israel knows a Biden administration is going to be so lackadaisical with Iran's nuclear program?
Well, the Israelis haven't been holding back on any of this for a long time, so it doesn't feel to me like this is that much of a change from what policy. And of course, they never talk about this, and we all assume, and we don't know, and neither confirm nor deny, and all that. But if there was an Israeli hand in this, which is the assumption that I think the entire international community works off of, you start to think about, well, what would be the Iranians' next steps, and what would they want to see? And I think that they would probably try to get something from a Biden administration. I think they'd rather do negotiation. I think they'd rather try to get concessions first before going all out and doing whatever they can to make life more dangerous and miserable, certainly for our allies in the Middle East.
Hey, everyone. If you want to go to the full interview, please go and download my podcast at iTunes, iHeart, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. But before I go, I want to talk to you a little bit about something that I think is actually bothering most Americans, and that's COVID-19 mandates and restrictions that are vary across the United States. I am so frustrated, and I know so many of you are too, with all of these different rules and regulations and strange requests going from the CDC all the way to California with Governor Newsom, who put in like some mandates for, I guess, early restrictions, coming home early before Thanksgiving, the week before Thanksgiving, telling people to stay home to stop the spread. In fact, there's this one story that he issued a new round of criteria during Thanksgiving holidays. So from like 10 p.m. to 5 p.m., he issued curfews. I mean, I remember people in Orange County were upset about it. They were going out into the streets, and we had Governor Brown in Oregon asking people to turn in their neighbors if they saw more than 6 people at anyone's house. And we also have now Dr. Fauci. And Dr. Fauci is very interesting because he just moves with the political wind. And he is just the biggest player. He is an epidemiologist player, right? That's what I see of him. I mean, I know that everyone talks about him as being like the end all be all of viruses, and I don't even understand why, because I think he's screwed up big time during the AIDS epidemic. But I want you to hear what he had to say and what he has to say about Christmas, because this isn't over yet, folks. They are going to have strange restrictions and random selections of restrictions that are not based on science, by the way, that are not based on science for all of us to adhere to in the next month. Let's listen to this.
Dr. Fauci, you have said that again and again and again. We saw all those people traveling. So you know what's coming. And with Christmas just around the corner, do you think we'll be under the same restrictions that you recommended on Thanksgiving going into Christmas?
You know, Martha, I can't see how we're not going to have the same thing, because when you have the kind of inflection that we have, it doesn't all of a sudden turn around like that. So clearly in the next few weeks, we're going to have the same sort of thing. And perhaps even 2 or 3 weeks down the line, Martha, we may see a surge upon a surge. You know, we don't want to frighten people, but that's just the reality. We said that these things would happen as we got into the cold weather and as we began traveling, and they've happened. It's going to happen again. So I cannot see all of a sudden a relaxation of the kinds of recommendations or restrictions, because we're getting into colder weather and in an even larger holiday season as people travel to come back and forth for Christmas. So I don't see a relaxation of the kind of recommendations and restrictions that we made.
I don't understand Dr. Fauci. We've caught him. We saw him at a baseball game. Remember that, with his mask off, just laughing and talking to friends. We've seen Governor Newsom, the hypocrites. These are all hypocrites. You know, sitting at a restaurant, $22,000 meal apparently at French Laundry with his friends, all laughing and having fun. You know, these restrictions are for us little people, because I guess we can't keep our hands clean and we don't know how to take care of our family, right? We can't, you know, tell our elderly parents, we can't deliver them food, or people who have low immunities that would be more susceptible to COVID. We're not going to be able to take care of them, right? And right now we also have Moderna, right, which is created a vaccine, which, by the way, is testing in its 3rd trial phase, more than 94% effective for this vaccine. We have Pfizer, and we have 2 other major pharmaceutical companies that also have vaccines ready to go. They're applying for these emergency vaccine release so that they can do this on a wide scale level globally to get people vaccinated for COVID-19. But we're still trying, I mean, the government is still trying to get into every aspect of your life, to control every aspect down to who you have at the Thanksgiving table. I mean, literally, those type of restrictions, what we've seen with Governor Newsom, what we've seen with Governor Cuomo, what we've seen here in my state of Virginia with Ralph Northam and others. Look at in DC, those extraordinary restrictions. You know, masks on at all times. If you take it off, you could be fined up to $400, up to whatever 1,000 pounds in England. I mean, it's like these crazy restrictions. And then they just tell us. They just talk about it on TV like we all know, like people are dropping dead on the street and we are just walking over the bodies, and you're going to be horrified. And they're this fear tactics that they put into they don't even answer our questions. No, we're not even allowed to ask questions, right? Because if we do, then we're going against the narrative. And any question can be perceived like, excuse me, but how many people did you have in the Javits Center when you designated the ginormous Javits Center for COVID patients? How many were there actually? How many? And then you're not allowed to ask that. How many did you put on the ship that you asked, you know, you needed the president to send to New York, that naval ship, the USS Comfort? How many were there? Oh, no, wait, I'm not allowed to ask that either. Do you guys remember when China had all those videos? Those videos were leaking out of China that reporters were disappearing, citizen reporters, this and that. They were trying to send videos out, and there were people walking over bodies in Wuhan. Like, people would just collapse on the street. I mean, it was towards I don't even know if you remember this, if people actually remember this. Because I was thinking to myself, wow, what kind of virus is this? Where like people are just like, they're collapsing on the street. And do you guys remember when Fauci was saying early on, when the outbreak actually happened, and Fauci was saying early on, he compared it to the flu? Remember that? And he said, no. And then the CDC came out and said, don't buy masks. You don't want to take the masks away from the doctors. It's not going to do any good. And then we got to wear masks. And now we've, can only have this many people sitting around a table for Thanksgiving because what? Oh, the best one is the CDC, right? The CDC is like, you can't play loud music or dance because COVID is going to do what? COVID is more aggressive when you're dancing. It wants to dance with you and jump into other people. What is it? What is it? Do you think we're idiots? I mean, they must think we're idiots. People traveling in an airport, I have never seen airports so clean in my life. In fact, one of the producers here, Rich, I think he brought this up saying like when he was traveling at an airport, it was like nobody would take their mask off. Everybody was like, very robotic, cleaning. Nobody was near each other. And isn't the mask that they told us it's supposed to reduce the transmission? So if we're all wearing masks and we're all cleaning our hands and nobody's talking to anyone anymore, then how is this going to be so horrible at Christmas with people traveling? It was interesting. There was I think it was the mayor of Denver. I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head, but he had to apologize. He basically just had to apologize for wanting to travel or traveling on Thanksgiving. But let's talk about the effects of COVID in a very realistic way before I get off this podcast with you, because I know you're sitting there thinking about the economy and what these lockdowns are doing to our economy. I mean, I was stunned when you hear how many people have lost their businesses, how many businesses in the United States, small businesses, have been shuttered, mom and pop businesses. This is what America is all about. It's about supporting our small business. It's about taking care of one another. And they've literally created these government officials that know nothing. They're not scientists. They're not following any scientific method. They're know-nothings. They're using this for politics. Are basically shutting down our country and shutting down businesses. There's a story here, and it's in the New York Post, and I think it's a really important story. Nearly 1/3 of small businesses in New York and New Jersey remain closed since January, folks, amid the coronavirus pandemic. That's according to a Watchdog report, right? In the Empire State, 27.8% of the small businesses have not reopened their doors. 27.8% of small businesses, they haven't opened their doors. While Jersey has lost 31.2% as of November 16th, according to tracktherecovery.org. It's a Harvard-run database, Harvard-run database that keeps tabs on the economic impact of the virus. Think about that. Not just the numbers. Think about the people that run the businesses, their families, their children, their extended families, the economy at Christmas. All of these families suffering and struggling. We have a vaccine. Get the vaccine to the most vulnerable first. Approve, FDA. Let's approve this. And get it to the most vulnerable first, and then get it to the rest of us, right? And we're going to be okay. But why are people like Dr. Fauci, why are people like Joe Biden and others continuously trying to harp on this? They want to rip our Constitution out from under us because of COVID, and they are shutting businesses down. The only people that are benefiting from this right now are online businesses, right? Amazon. Whoo! Can you imagine? Jeff Bezos like, just let it happen. Let's just let it roll, right? He's He's making hand over fist with this. It doesn't bother him one bit that people have to order online. Stay at home, lock yourselves in a house, lock yourselves in a closet, get on your laptop, order stuff from me. Maybe grocery stores that people are ordering at home because they don't want to go out. People aren't even really talking to each other anymore. It's so weird. It's like we're afraid of one another. This is not right, because I'm going to tell you this. It won't end with COVID-19. Now they realize they can do this with anything. I want you to think about that, because we didn't shut everything down. And by the way, 65,000 people is a lot of people to die of the flu. And that happened in 2018 to 2019. Roughly is what they believe. 65,000 people. That's a lot of people. It's also what happens when you're alive. I mean, these are things that happen. We want to mitigate it. We want to try to stop viruses. That's why we have a flu shot. But I don't remember them shutting everything down. But now that they've set a precedent with COVID, mark my words, the left, especially the Democrats, will utilize this as a tool in the future. And it won't just be COVID-19. It could be anything. We have to be really careful about the rights that we are willing to give away because we're scared. Don't give up on freedom. Don't give up on yourself. There is nothing to fear but fear itself. We figured this out, right? We figured this out. That's an old saying. My dad used to say it to me all the time. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. And it's true, because we figured out what COVID is. We are going to get through this together. I feel terrible for the families that have had to deal with this horrible, horrible virus, that have had to live with it, that have lost loved ones because of it. But we will make it through this, and we will be just fine. We will be fine as long as we don't give up on our freedom. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. It always means so much to me to have you with me. Remember, you can follow me at Sara Carter DC on Twitter, but I would prefer if y'all would go to Parler and follow me there at Sara Carter Official. That's at Sara Carter Official on Parler. We can have open discussions without being censored. Also, go to my website, saraacarter.com, with all the latest stories. And please, please, please subscribe to the podcast. You can do that on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, anywhere you listen to your podcast. You can subscribe to the Sara Carter Show. I'm here at lovely Radio America. I love Radio America. You can subscribe to me there. Go on their website, listen to me there. And thank you so much for being a part of the show. It means so much to me. And together, we are taking the story back.